Welcome to the tutorial mode. There is a hard mode that you can access by putting in the password hard exclamation mark, I believe. But that's one-hit deaths. It's very different than what I'm going to be doing here. I'm just going to show how I got through the game. And there's a lot of easy methods that I used that made it easy for me because I was just trying to get through the game. So, the first time I make it through a section, that's what you see. There is no, I don't redo anything when I'm playing through a game the first time. So I only redo what I'm forced to do if I die a lot. But this game is very liberal with checkpoints. Each new section is pretty much a checkpoint. You have unlimited continues, and lives don't really matter unless you're going for points because you always start at the checkpoint you got to. And there's passwords. I think the password starts you back at the beginning of the entire stage, but I never used them because I use save states to save where I was at, so it's like leaving the NES on for days pretty much, because I played this over like maybe 2 or 3 days. Total time was maybe around 4 hours and 40-something minutes to beat the game, so it didn't take me super long, but there are some hard parts. One thing I do exploit is that on normal, you can take a lot of damage from regular enemies, a lot of fucking damage, so you won't really see it early on here because I was just getting a feel for the game. This is when I was starting my run. But I do even start to exploit it a little bit here. But had I known, I could have just started just sucking up damage and jumping up this thing really fast because it doesn't matter. Like I said, if you die on the next screen, it doesn't matter because you got your checkpoint. So keep that in mind when playing through on regular mode. There really isn't difficulty modes as far as the menu goes. I mean, the hard mode is the secret for a reason because it's super hard. One-hit deaths in this game makes it brutal, I'm sure. I haven't tried it yet. I am thinking about doing it. If I do a hard run, I will make a separate commentary tutorial for that because the strategies are going to be completely different than what I'm doing here. So it would definitely be worth explaining if I go through it. I did actually watch a hard playthrough by Mike Matai, and it was actually really good. So I learned some things from that I used even on regular. But yeah, later on you'll get some characters that you can switch by pressing select. If you care about what order you get the characters in, you can do the planets in a different order. I didn't even think about that when I played through on normal. It may actually be worth considering that on hard. You see there, I pretty much committed suicide to get the power icon because I didn't understand how it worked. I think if you lose all your lives and continue, I think maybe you lose your life upgrades and power upgrades. So maybe that's the consequence that you have for losing all your lives. So maybe 1-ups are somewhat useful in that sense. But honestly, I was able to beat everything with just the default amount of health and power. So, I mean, I didn't really give a shit. I mean, eventually I got through it. But you may want to be careful if you're concerned with that. The hardest parts of the game are not really getting hit by the enemies. The enemies can interrupt you and make you fall into pits, but the hardest parts are usually like platforming related or parts that have like one-hit deaths. And there's a lot of trial and error memorization type of sequences in the game, a decent amount. Those are the hardest segments. But there's going to be a lot of parts where you see me just taking hits and running through the areas. And that comes a little later. The last boss is the most difficult part of the game, for sure, because your character is really strangely shaped, really big in that area, because you're like basically a character standing on top of a spaceship, so it's very awkward to maneuver, and you get very small screen space to maneuver, and the boss is also very big, so it can be tough. It just takes a lot of practice and, getting a feel for it. This part, if you don't want to take any damage, what I saw in the hard run was just pausing the game constantly. When you pause the game, it shows everything on screen. It doesn't make anything disappear. So, like, if you really wanted to, you could basically pause your way through this and move super carefully, almost like a turn-based strategy game at that point. But, I may do that if I play on hard. I'm not concerned with, beating it without pausing the game or anything. I'll use that if it works. Now, this is a really sloppy playthrough because the game let me win. So, obviously, I didn't refine it. So, you're going to see a lot of that. So, yeah, you'll get the general idea, though. Eventually, you'll see me start to get the pattern down. But by that point, the boss is dead. So, I did barely beat it. But, that's what you want to do. You want to, like, get in close and crouch, and then he throws the boulder over your head. Then at the right time, you want to jump over him as he charges and shoot him in the back. That's the proper way to do it. But you only saw me do that maybe once or something like that. I was really sloppy. I barely beat it, but it was good enough. But yeah, this game, it's challenging, but, it's not too bad just because of the fact that you can always start back at the section you got to. So it's, I was making progress at a pretty good clip. I just go to whatever planet it puts me on. I wasn't concerned about the order or anything like that. But like I said, if you want to see a refined playthrough, check out a hard playthrough. The Mike Matai run was good. Though that one wasn't edited. You might want to check out like a hard speed run for the fastest. But I mean, there were some things that I couldn't duplicate in the speed run. Like, I don't know how to control that orb that there's this orb that this woman has that you can move around. It does the most damage of any move in the game, but it's very hard to control. But the speedrunners have that mastered, so, you're not going to see that kind of mastery in this playthrough. But I do use that orb to pull some bullshit on the bosses. And I do have some easy methods for some pretty tricky bosses, so, I'll explain that in those sections. A lot of this I'm not going to explain because a lot of it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you have to push these rocks into the right position. And I don't think I really need to explain that because I'm showing it on the screen. It's easy to see what's going on. But I'll try to explain some of the more, nuanced things. This is a great game for this system, though. This is definitely one of the better NES games. I actually owned this when I was younger, but I was never able to beat it for whatever reason. I got stuck on some part. But it was cool to come back to this game and actually beat it. I know hard mode would take me a lot of hours with the one-hit deaths. I mean, this is a hard game to play without getting hit. Though some parts on hard would be pretty much identical, because there's some parts in the normal mode where you can't get hit either. So those sections would be identical, I think. But this part's a pain in the ass. This is pure trial and error. So, these are the kind of parts I'm not really a huge fan of. But you're going to just have to memorize which ways, to walk. You're going to have to be ready. As soon as you fall, you fall straight down, you have to be ready to move in that direction. If you forget it all, you're dead. So you have to just memorize it. That's all it is. There's really no tips for that, aside from memorize the section. And this part, try to kill the frogs before you land on the platforms, obviously, if you can. That helps. Sometimes I would just, jump in and take the hit, though, because, especially near the end of the section, because I knew I could take some damage. So I do exploit that kind of stuff. Like I say, I absorbed the hits. That was pretty dangerous. I almost died from that, but I somehow got through by doing it sloppy like that. Now, if I had the woman, I could have used the orb to, send it down and kill the frog, or I could have used the duck with the spread shot, but I didn't. I don't even know. I probably had one of my characters and didn't even realize it, because I didn't know how you earn the characters at this point. So, if I would have used the other character that shoots in a downward arc, I think I had the robot guy. Maybe. I could have used that. I probably could have killed those frogs. But see, I didn't even know how the game worked at this point. I was just playing through with one character. So this part, you just want to take your time. If those guys get in your way, kill them, obviously. But you just want to take your time climbing up. Don't try to do it too fast, because it's easy to get stuck on the platform and then you fall down. You hit your head on the platform and fall down a few notches. And, there's no reason ever to go to the far left or right of the screen where the spikes are. So, just stay in, try to stay mostly in the center. It's very easy. It's just a little, it just takes a little while. The control doesn't always respond like I would like with the movement. I mean, maybe it's the hit detection. But the character is very large and kind of awkward. Sometimes I actually use the smaller character just because he's smaller and he seems to fit in certain areas better. And I think he probably has a smaller hitbox too, so it may be better for avoiding certain attacks. I ended up using him on some parts because I felt like I could squeeze into some areas better with him. But I might be wrong about that, but that's how it did seem to be that was the case. When you get hit by an enemy and you're about to jump, it staggers your jump, it delays it, and it cuts down the distance of your jump, the height of your jump, basically, and probably the width. So that's what can mess you up on platforming scenes, getting hit by bullets or enemies. It can totally fuck up your jumps. And here you just ride the boulders and charge up your jump. I didn't mention the controls. If you hold your shot button, you'll do that character's power move. For Bucky, this character, it's a high jump or a wide jump. Just a very big jump. The longer you hold it, the wider the jump. And the other characters function in the same way. The duck can climb on walls, and the woman has like this homing orb. You'll see me using them. I'll explain it as. For this is just this is a memorization sequence. Just follow what I do here. As far as when to ride the boulders. You obviously don't want to get on that rock until the green thing is coming back from the left side of the screen. If you do it on the wrong side, you'll just die. So it's just trial and error. It's very easy when you know what to do. It took me, a decent amount of tries just to figure out what I was, exactly what I had to do. But yeah, it's not a hard part. For this boss, this boss you can pull total bullshit. I just get right up to it and just jump and fire rapidly. I'm actually a lot of times using like rapid fire on the emulator, so that may help too. But if you do that, I did that with plenty of life left, so it's very easy to beat that way. You don't have to fight it. If you're playing on hard, you may have to do something. No, I saw somebody kill it real fast on hard by using the woman with the homing orb and getting the homing orb in that middle area immediately and killing it. But a lot of those tactics are not nearly as easy as the speedrunners make them look. I've tried some of that stuff, and it's you really have to have good control of that orb. You really have to be positioned perfectly to make it work. I'm not trying to optimize the game in any way. Here I'm just beating it, so it's not going to be anything too fancy. You're going to see a lot of segments where I barely completed them. Here I like to use this character. Well, actually, you kind of have to use this character because he's the only one who can break those ice blocks as far as I know, so this is super fucking easy. You could even take a lot of damage. As long as you get to the next screen, you'll get your checkpoint. So, there's really no way to fuck this up. This is not going to give anybody any trouble, I don't think. It's a very short little screen. These are more trial and error memorization types of pieces. You have to, just have to know where to go, when to move and where to move. And of course, just watching the video will give you an idea what you need to do with this. Sometimes you may have to use Bucky's super jump. But you don't want to obviously get hit by the head of the snake. Will kill you. This can be a little tricky, but if you play it carefully, you can just watch how I play it here and just. You do have to watch out because the frogs with the blowtorches will melt the ice you're standing on. So you want to get rid of them if you can before they destroy the platforms. By charging these, see the robot guy or whatever, Cyclops. I don't know what he is. The little guy. He can do some kind of hovering thing when you charge his move. I like using that sometimes for some parts, but I don't think you need it for this. There's a part coming up that would be extremely difficult on the hard mode, I'm sure. But on this, you can take a lot of damage. So, you can even get that life power up and keep things going. But I'm sure I could have, saved it until my life got a little lower and then got it to make it even easier. But the platform does get smaller and smaller. So, you only have a limited amount of time to get to that life power up. I would explain more about how the power-ups work exactly, but I know that they do increase your max bar. And they, of course, refill whatever you use. But aside from that, I don't know how long all that shit lasts. And I don't know if it's character-specific, like if you have to power. I think you may switch characters to get their bars up if you want to grab one. But, it seems all very temporary because I think when you use a continue, you lose it all. That's what it seems like. So I'm still not sure, so I'm really not going to try to go into detail and explain it because I honestly did not pay enough attention to how that worked. I tried to keep an eye on it, but I mostly just made my way through the levels, trial and error. Here you want the guys to, throw that ball down into the hole so you can get into the hole. It breaks the area open. Also, keep in mind, the rolling spike balls will just damage you a little bit and mess up your movement, but they don't do a lot of damage. I think they do, they do very little damage. So, the main thing is don't touch the ceiling spikes, and the area is pretty easy. The ceiling spikes will always kill you in one hit in these games, so, or in this game. So whenever you see those, you don't want to touch those. You can, like I said, you can absorb a decent amount of enemy damage in a lot of areas. So a lot of times that's not the main threat. You have to. The thing is, a lot of times to make things easier, you want to prioritize the things that kill you in one hit. Those are the things to focus on in these levels. Like, keep all the one-hit death hazards in mind. And the enemies are kind of just like filler. If you want, sometimes you can just absorb hits by a lot of enemies, or you can play kind of sloppy. When I play through a lot of these areas, I'm doing kind of, you could call it like a rough draft. Because what I do, a lot of times, I'll try to run through the level first and play sloppy. And if I succeed with that, then that's what gets left in this run. So that's why a lot of these are very sloppy, very rough. Because the game let me get away with it, and I didn't have to refine my technique. So you're going to see a lot of that. Because the deaths are edited out, and if I didn't die, there's no deaths to edit out, so you're just going to see whatever went down is what you're going to see. So keep that in mind. Of course, I could go back, and if I do a hard mode, then it's going to be super refined. But I don't know yet if I'm going to do that, but the game is very good. I mean, there is some bullshit that I'll mention later, especially with the last boss, but I mean, if I get that far, I'm sure I'll beat the game by that point. So I wouldn't be too worried about it. If I can get that far and hard, then I'll pretty much, it's just a matter of time before I beat the boss without getting hit. Yeah, this guy, he's very easy. I mean, just keep firing, try to jump his missiles, try not to get trapped in the ice, and just keep shooting. I mean, you can take a lot of damage on that guy anyway, so there's not really much to it, not much to say. Obviously, my playing was pretty shitty and sloppy, and I still won, so he didn't take many attempts on this mode. Now here, this is a complete joke. Just take the hits and just keep running and jumping. This is where I show how I don't give a fuck about taking damage. I mean, I just pretty much absorb the hits and keep running. I stopped once to get a power-up, but because at this point, I didn't realize how the life really worked. But actually, it is probably useful to get that for this next screen, just to have a fuller life bar than if I lost all my lives. But then again, I just run through, yet again. I run through all this shit. I just didn't even care. This was completely rough. And it worked. And, just get the life if you want. Refill it, and then just take the damage again. It doesn't matter. I still didn't realize how this worked with the power-ups. I probably would have just ignored that had I been playing it again. And see, now I do have the duck and the woman, so I actually have some good characters that I wasn't really even using. But I really don't need them for this. I mean, because like I said, I'm just trying to beat the game, so here I continue just running through and absorbing damage. Totally sloppy. Not giving a fuck. And like I said, if the game lets me do this kind of shit, I'm going to be doing it. That's why I think my tutorials are probably going to be useful for a lot of players, including, people who are new to games or beginners at these types of games or whatever, can find easy methods in a lot of my videos, because a lot of times I will beat it using, I will exploit games. I exploit games heavily, so a lot of them will make, easy techniques for beginning players. And like I said, if I have to do more advanced shit, I'll grind it out and do it. But I only do it when I'm forced to do it. So, a lot of my runs are just going to be, if the game lets me play real rough, I'm going to play a lot of parts real rough. So, I think a lot of my tutorials in general, are probably worth checking out for a lot of players, because there's methods in there that, that just about anybody will be able to use, because I find stuff that's pretty easy to pull off. There's a lot of little weaknesses in games and stuff that you can exploit. I'm pretty quick at finding that kind of shit. But I mean, with this, it was easy because you can take so much damage. So it was pretty much easy just to focus on the one-hit death traps and kind of ignore a lot of the enemies, unless they get in the way of my jumps or something like that. Then I'll deal with them. But now some parts are very lengthy and long, and you do want to kill enemies, but that's pretty much later on. There's not a lot of parts early on where you really have to worry about the enemies that much. Here it's just a matter of, if you watch me play this, you'll see what meteors I wait for and which ones I ride, if you really want to study that, if you're having trouble with this. But that's about it. I mean, kill the occasional enemy if you want to, and just ride the meteors to get across, and just, you keep doing that, and that's it. This is another trial and error segment. It's not hard. It's just you got to be ready to jump to the next moving platform when this thing's starts to slow down, is when you make your jump to the next vehicle, if you want to call it that. And that's it. You know, it just goes on for a while, but, you know, once you play it, you'll know what's coming up. You just have to predict it. And you really, you know, you're not going to probably be able to predict it your first time, so you probably die a number of times on this, but you'll get it down. There's some parts that you really can't beat on your first try unless you got, like, extremely lucky somehow, but there's a lot of trial and error type of shit where you just have to die repeatedly to learn. Like that fire path thing where the fire follows you. You just have to know where to go. You're not going to know until you die a bunch of times. You know, no matter how good you are, it's just something you have to just die a lot. I'm not really a huge fan of that kind of game design, but you can expect that on a lot of, you know, older 8 and 16-bit games. And, you know, I play through a lot of them, so I mean, I'm used to that type of thing. I don't like it, but, you know I can learn most of those parts anyway. I usually do. I mean, shit, I went through Metal Storm on Expert, which was pretty much all trial and error. It was fucking disgusting. The paths you had to find were insane to beat it. So I mean, if I stick with a game long enough, you know, it usually comes in. Now this part can be really easy. Now see, I beat this while I was kind of learning what to do. That's how fucking easy it was. So you'll see how sloppy I'm playing here. I didn't realize if I could use that woman with the orb just yet. I think first you have to kill like some of the guns or something. So I think I kill the bottom gun, and then I'm able to go into one of those holes and kind of survive in one of those holes. So you just want to shoot this. Now, if you want to be careful, you can, you know, move, of course, and dodge those swirly things and all that. But, I mean, you really don't need to bust your ass. You can take a lot of damage, like I said. Then, once you've gotten rid of that bottom gun, you just sit here and charge up your orb fully. And it's very hard to move. I mean, to move precisely, but you just fuck around in there with it. Eventually, you'll take out the top gun and then take out the eye, and you'll kill it fast. It's very easy. If you don't know about that, I'm sure it'd be a little trickier, but, you know, there's a lot of shit that you can use to your advantage. That woman is the most powerful character in the game. Anytime you can use her orb on, like, a boss, you can do massive damage, so it's great. You can actually kill all the bosses pretty much, like, almost instantly if you know how to use her real well, but I wasn't able to pull off some of those tricks. But it can be done. Except for the final boss, which she doesn't have her orb anymore by that point, so you just have to play it normally. And I'll explain more about that when we get to that part of the game. I'm kind of tempted to do a hard one. I may do it even though I know it's going to be really frustrating. The checkpoint system at least gives some incentive because, you know, if you beat a section, you never have to do it again. So that's cool. I like that. So I'll probably just start fucking around, maybe playing around with it. And you know, I am tempted. I'm probably going to start it up. I don't know when. I may start it up soon, or I do. You know, I also have so many games in progress, a massive backlog, so I kind of want to get onto some other games. But you know, sometimes I kind of get absorbed into one game. This is a very good game overall. It's got some issues, but it's a great game. And you get your password, so if you do want to shut the game off, if you're playing on an old school NES, you can shut the game off, and then you'll just have to restart the stage. Now these stages, I play a lot of these areas very carefully, and some of these parts are going to be slow because, remember, I didn't know where to go, and a lot of times I did beat a lot of sections on my first time, so some of it's going to be slow and careful because I don't know what to expect. So, you know, I will play careful sometimes in situations like that. I don't even bother with that life power up on the right, but you can go and get it if you want it. I think I was realizing by this point that after you lose all your lives, I think all the power up, all the upgrades go away anyway. So I wasn't taking them that seriously at this point. You will see me floating a lot instead of jumping in these areas, and that's because I saw there was an area I think where you can fall through the blocks, invisible blocks. At least according to Mike Matai on his playthrough, he was doing this. You know, I mean, I don't even know if there is invisible blocks, to be honest with you. I was just kind of copying what I saw in that playthrough. So I'm probably doing that for no reason. But, you know, if you see me doing that, that's the reason I keep floating around like that. This guy has kind of a weird arcing shot, so you know you have to be lined up right to. But it's actually very useful to take out a lot of enemies that are lower. I like his shot a lot. I do use him a lot because he's smaller and he has a pretty good shot. Plus he can break shit, which they force you to use them to get through. Now these lasers, they do a lot of damage when they hit you. You know, I mean, you can take maybe depending how much your life bar is, it really depends. But you know, when you have a small life bar like this, like the third one will kill you. So you can't really just be eating up all those shots, you know. But like I said, this is very fucking self-explanatory. You can go here and get this extra stuff. This is like a bonus area. So you don't even have to go here if you don't want to. I mean, I probably wouldn't have even gone there just to get that power up. But I think it does also give you a checkpoint, though. Yeah, so, like, it actually might be worth going in there just to get a checkpoint. Because then if you die, I think you'll start right here. I think every new screen is basically a checkpoint. So that might be a worthwhile reason to do it. Because then if you fuck this next part up somehow, we still have a checkpoint right on that right side. So you'd be starting right here. So yeah, maybe just go, you know, you can go, if you don't want the power, just go in there and then just go back to where you were. Which will make a checkpoint. And you'll have full health when you respawn there, so. You can skip all this bullshit just by floating up. The float is great because I skipped a lot of those block segments by just being able to float past a lot of shit. I don't know if you're really supposed to do that, but it worked. I don't really like those kind of block segments, so if I can bypass that kind of shit, I definitely will. But there's going to be some trial and error parts where you got to memorize the blocks and stuff. It can be kind of a pain in the ass. It's not that hard. Like I said, the game doesn't have anything that's really that hard, except the last boss is pretty fucking hard, but doable. I mean, you know, the more you practice it, it starts to get down to muscle memory. You start to get it pretty good. And I still don't like the fight, but I suppose if I play the game on hard, I can try to, you know, eventually I'll get it without getting hit. Here, all you got to do is just, you know, take the hits and just get into this small crevice over here. Break these things and get in that little gap. You have to do a very slight jump to get in there. That's why I was fucking up. You have to just, like, hit the button real fast. Hit the jump button real fast and just jump in there. You don't want to hold it down for any length of time or you just won't be able to get in there. And then all you got to do is duck and shoot. All these fights against your characters, I guess you're fighting characters that you've already possessed. I guess they got kidnapped or some shit. I wasn't paying attention to the story as usual, but all these fights are super fucking easy. I'll show you an exploit in each one. Not that I discovered it, but you'll see what, you know, you'll see how fucking easy it is. There's like a safe area in every fight of these guys. So, you know, it's very easy. It's also useful because, of course, then you get these characters and some of them may actually be useful in some parts. But, you know, I don't think you're really going to need them until you get to maybe the main boss of this level. I think the woman may be very useful if it's the boss that I think it is. I really don't have the game like that memorized. But luckily, I just beat this game yesterday, so I'm doing the commentary while it's still pretty fresh in my mind. I'm just kind of watching it. I have watched it over already several times because I had to make sure it was edited properly, the deaths. So I have watched it, but I'm just kind of watching it and refreshing my memory, you know, even more so now as I'm doing the commentary. I don't like doing live commentary because I like to focus on the game. So I usually do it afterward. If the game's not that hard, I may do a playthrough where I think I've done like one playthrough where I was commenting as I was playing because it was an easy game. But I probably won't do that most of the time. Unless I get into streaming or something where I show all my attempts and I interact with people in the chat. You know, that might be interesting to get into at some point. But my channel is still fucking small right now. I mean, I may not even get 1 or 2 views on this run. So right now, you know, I'd have to actually try to promote the channel, which I haven't done any of that at all. So, you know, I just made the channel because I wanted to have like an archive of my runs and be able to access it and just interact with some people who are passionate about the games. But, you know, I didn't really get serious and try to like market it or anything, you know. I just wanted to build up a lot of content. That's really what I have over 2,000 videos now, but I'm still just building playthroughs and shit like that. And I'm not concerned with trying to like monetize it or whatever. I mean, they won't even let me monetize until I have like, you know, I don't know, it's like maybe 1,000 subscribers or some crazy shit. So I don't even, you know, not even trying to do that right now. I guess I can get some social media accounts, which I fucking hate, and I can start promoting the channel that way. But, you know, right now I don't give a shit. And here I'm just talking about random shit because, I mean, clearly, I mean, there's really nothing to explain here by this point. Not in these sections, you know. Very straightforward. I guess there are some, like, different paths and such, but usually they lead to a dead end and you just go back the way you came. And it's good to do that, too, because, like I said, you get checkpoints when you switch screens, so you can make more checkpoints that way and probably make things even easier. And now this is another very easy boss. It's a little tricky to get into the safe spot, you know, but that's all you got to focus on is you see the way I came up around that edge and got those blocks out of there. I found that was a good way to do it. On normal, of course. I mean, on hard, I'd probably have to do things very differently because I wouldn't even be able to take that one hit. So it would have to be, you know. And then all you do is use this guy, just continue using this guy and just take a shit on this guy. He's down there. It's like super straightforward. You can't get hit. I think they purposely put these areas here for players to find. I mean, I don't see any other reason why it was there, so I think you're probably supposed to do this, but, you know, I'm not sure. Who the fuck knows? It is a lame, you know, it's a lame way to fight, but I always like shit like this. I enjoy when I can get through a section, so I don't really have any complaints when shit like that's too easy, you know. The game is challenging enough, though, as a whole. I mean, it's not an easy game. It's for me, I consider the game to be more of a moderate game just because of the unlimited continues and everything. So, you know, for the kind of games I play, it's pretty moderate. Maybe on the upper level of moderate, because it can be kind of hard at times, but I mean, there's no section that's really that difficult, you know, for me personally. So, this part is very heavy memorization. So, you really have to memorize. You got to get used to the rhythm of when the blocks appear by listening to the sounds, which you're not going to be hearing in this video, but you'll hear it in my original video. Here I like to be right on the edge. See, I'm on the edge of this platform. That makes it easy to transition to the next block when it appears. And I do the same thing for that other pink block. That makes that part much easier. So that's the only real tip I can give aside from memorizing it and getting the rhythm down. You have to be able to feel when the platforms are going to appear, because you have to be mid-jump when you make contact with the block. Otherwise, you won't be able to get it in time. So you have to. It's just one of those parts where you have to have a feel for the rhythm of the blocks. And they don't appear on every little pulse. Sometimes they appear every, like, 2 pulses or something like that. There's a sound that you'll be listening for. It's like a machine sound. Sometimes you have to wait for 2 of those sounds to completely finish, and that's when it appears. So you have to count them, and you have to really get used to it. And that's really the only advice I can give. Now, this part I played very sloppy because I beat it pretty quickly. I didn't have much health left for the rest of the area, but if you hit any one of those ball spikes that's appearing, that's an instant death. But I absorbed a lot of boulders and took a lot of damage. As you see, part of your body can clip through those spikes. So, you know, get used to that and just find, you know, you can just kind of just do what I'm doing here and just position yourself like that. So this section is fairly long, so you have to be good at maneuvering. But once I got to this part of the level, I didn't die. So, I mean, I was able to get this on my first time. I may have died like once on the ball spike part in the beginning, but, you know, I found this part to be very easy. But, you know, it will vary. It's another incidence of, you know, like, prioritizing the one-hit killing things and just not taking the regular enemies too seriously. Though I am starting to kill the frogs at this point because I don't have a ton of health, but, you know, I can still take a number of hits from these regular enemies. The biggest threat is they might shoot me and stagger my movement in some way and cause me to walk into the spike, but, you know, it's an easy section, I think. This is another one where it's extremely easy to exploit. This is the easiest of these bosses because you don't even need to go to any special area or anything. All you have to do is trigger them and then just get back here and shoot. I was using this guy with the laser because I think it does more damage. So So maybe it's a little faster. I'm not even sure. But it doesn't fucking matter anyway. Unless you're doing, like, you know, trying to do a speed run or something, then you'll be playing the game totally different anyway at that point. So it really doesn't make a difference. I didn't really care even about taking some damage. I really didn't give a shit. Yeah, I knew the guy was going to be easy. You know, just like if I can play sloppily, a lot of times I just will, you know, so I don't really need to worry about it. So yeah, now you have, you know, Duck McFuck back in your party, so that's good. I don't think you're going to use him on this level, but later on the game will force you to make more use out of your different characters. It's only like a little bit so far at to this point in the game where, you know, you have to sometimes use the Cyclops guy, but that's it. You really don't have to use any of the other characters. But there's going to be parts where it forces you to switch characters pretty much, which is a cool aspect of the game. It is, you know, and it has tight control. The main issue that I have is your character's, you know, kind of big, so the hitbox is really big, so it's kind of annoying with that. But the game plays very tight overall. It's very responsive. So actually, yeah, I guess I didn't have the boss fight I was expecting. I guess this is where the boss fight is. For this part, you see, I just take the hits. And, so, yeah, I mean, it is a little dangerous because it makes it hard because he will stagger your jumps and you can fall in the pit. But if you fuck around with it, you can get in there. For these, I just kind of just run through this shit. I mean, it did take me a number of attempts, but once I realized I could just run underneath, you know, run in these gaps, I just did it pretty quickly. You know, you can just take the hits from the frog enemies and then just run through those things. You really want to dodge these things, which can be, their timing is different sometimes, but, you know, you really don't want to get hit by them because they do a lot of damage. So, you want to minimize that, because you do have to dodge a lot of little bullshit. Though this is an easy section, but you have to dodge a lot of shit, so. This part is more about playing carefully. I didn't care at this point because I just took the hits because I was already close to the end of the stage. And you'll see me do that a lot where I just don't give a shit. I liked using her for this part. I died a number of times on this section. I like using her for this part and playing very carefully and inching the screen. And using that ball to take out the slugs. The slugs can be a problem because if they land on your head, your jumps get all fucked up. You can only do tiny little jumps that are pretty much useless. And the only way to get rid of a slug is to bump your head on the spikes while the slug is on your head. Now, the problem with that is that you don't always have spikes available, which is kind of funny because normally spikes would be a detriment, but in this game they're actually helpful with this part. But it's better not to let them land on your head, so just take it slow, position yourself as you see me doing, and just stay back, take out all the slugs before moving forward is what I would recommend. And then the part is very easy. It's just a matter of knowing what to do, that's all it is. But it's fucking easy once you play like this. It can be hard if you're trying to rush in and take an hit. You can also use the spread shot that I guess, you know, the Duck has. But, Duck McFuck, as I call him. But, yeah, you know, you can use that if you want. But, I found it, I prefer just using the ball and just doing that. It may take a little longer, but I didn't give a fuck. I'm not in a rush. See, like, it doesn't have a very good reach, so that's why I ended up switching back. I'd rather just, you know, she can go across the whole screen with that shit. It's hard to control, but once it hits something, it annihilates it, so. I like that weapon. And this is just, you know, it's easy, but it's just pretty much pure trial and error, positioning, and all that kind of shit. So there's really nothing I need to explain here. As a lot of people probably know with these types of parts, you time your movements based on what's about to happen, not necessarily what you see. So, like as the crusher is going down to the lowest point, you probably want to start moving because it's going to start going up again by the time you get to it. You know, I mean that's not an exact statement of what to do, but that's the kind of shit you have to make markers in your mind of you figure out what time to move, and it's not always based on what you would think by looking at these parts. That's a very easy part, so there's not much to explain there. But on hard parts like Jim Power, when I beat that, you had to have these marked points in your brain that you would know when to move, and that made it very doable. If you don't do that, it's very hard to react as you see it. But yeah, that's a whole other thing. I try to explain it. That's not really something I need to explain too much with this game. But this part was just a big fuck fest for me. I mean, it didn't take me super long, but I died a lot. What I would try to do is get to the edge of whatever platform I floated up to. And I would try to wait to see where the spotlights were so they could reveal how far on the platform I was. And then I would kind of just float randomly as far as I could. And, eventually I would vary the distances sometimes. Eventually I just got lucky and I would make it through a section. That's why I have really no tips on how to do this other than that. Just keep fucking around, basically. It's one of those kind of trial and error parts that, I don't really like, but I just kept fucking around. Eventually I would get through a section. My only tip is to try to maybe get on the edge of each platform that you land on and then float from that point. And, have a fully charged float so you can get pretty far into this area. But yeah, that's about it. There's more of these types of areas where I just got lucky. I just kept playing them until I got through. So those areas, I'm really not going to have any tips except for just keep playing, keep trying different things. The only thing you have to worry about here is getting sucked into that snake-looking thing. So, just don't stand on top of that jellyfish snake thing. It looks like there's a lot of shit and blood pulsating in this area, but it's the only area like this in the game is very easy. If you want, you can grab that life with, this little floaty guy here. Now, I think this is the boss that can be very hard, but I'll give you an easy strategy. Stand on this left side here for the next 3 stomps that he does, where he goes up in the air, comes back down. Stay for 3 of those, and just guide this ball. Crouch after he does 3 missile launches, 3 full missile flurries. There's a break between each. After he does 3 of them, he's going to squat down and do the laser. So be ready to duck after 3 missile flurries. See, this is when he does it. You duck. Now, I could have still stayed on the left edge, and I would have been okay. But I think for the 4th time he stomps down, you have to get away from the left side of the screen because he'll crush you or you'll just end up in between his legs. Which, if you're fast enough, you can kill him when you're in between his legs with the woman and with this orb. But it's very hard to do. I don't recommend even trying to do that. So basically, if you're trapped between his legs and you don't know how to kill him fast, you'll be fucked. So I recommend not going between his legs unless you know how to do it. But yeah, the missiles, you can pretty much absorb the missile damage. And you only have to move that one time that I specified. You may, once you get to the right side, you may want to move one more time after a few stomps. You'll get used to when he's going to land on that edge. But you can pretty much just stay in these safe spots and just take the missile shots. Don't even dodge them. Just do not get hit by the laser or his body. The laser will kill you in one hit. His body will kill you in one hit. So just ignore the missiles and stay on one of the corners pretty much, one of the edges. And just keep doing that pretty much. And it's fucking easy when you do that. First you have to take out the little bulb between his legs. Then you just take out the frog head. Once that's gone. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And, it's just another matter of just prioritizing what's going to kill you in one hit. And just taking the missile hits and not worrying about it. Now on hard, it's going to have to be much better played, obviously. But you might as well use this default setting to your advantage where you don't have to really play that well. This level has a lot of trial and error bullshit that's quite annoying. It's a pain in the ass because, you have to play them a lot to get used to where to go and everything. But I would say just follow the techniques that I use here. I mean, they work. Some of them are sloppy, though, where I shouldn't have even really succeeded. I'm sure there's probably better ways to do some of these parts, but you're probably not going to find them in my video, so... but I think you'll get enough of an idea of what to do. For this part, you want to jump onto the platform as it's moving away from you, see? And latch on that way. If you do it at any other time, you pretty much won't have time and you'll get crushed. So just keep that in mind. I somehow was able to latch onto that without getting spiked. I mean, I did this part really sloppy, but eventually I did get through. The thing is, you need to be charged up enough so you have time to climb up, because it'll run out and you'll fall off the walls. So it's kind of a pain in the ass. But if you fuck around with it enough, you should get through, as I did. This is kind of a long section, so you really don't want to take a ton of damage. But I think you do get some life back, so it's not too bad. You'll have to be careful when you hit those arrows when you jump, because it changes the gravity and it makes you float. There's some that make you float up and some that make you float down, so it kind of balances out, but you still got to be careful. And you can get that life. You should get it, most likely. And with those electric beams, it's a matter of just feeling the pulse and moving as soon as one pretty much goes away, which can be a pain in the ass. If you take hits from a few of them, it's not a big deal on this difficulty, so, you'll be alright. You do not want to get hit by this electric beam near the spikes, though. That'll knock you right into the spikes, so you have to dodge that one. The one after that, right on the other side of the spikes, you can get hit by it. It's okay, as long as you have enough life to take the hit. But yeah, here, just move carefully, try to feel the pulse of the rhythm. And you'll get some life here, so... And then at this point, you got plenty of life to beat the rest of the stage. So it shouldn't be a problem. I mean, I even played a little sloppy at the end, and, look, I just took like 3 hits right there, and it didn't even matter. This part's also very easy. All you have to do is, kind of wait for the enemy to break out of those vats and then just jump over them. Sometimes you'll jump over them and land directly behind them because you don't have enough room to maneuver otherwise. So just keep that in mind. Like here, you have to jump over them and land, right behind them. If you go too far, you fall off, obviously. But that's about it. Sometimes you have to do it quicker because there's 2 of them. But, I mean, it's extremely easy. You may take a hit here and there. But the main issue is that if you take a hit and then try to jump, it may stagger your jump. And then, you may fall in a hole. But that's about it. This section's a little challenging, but not too bad. You want to kind of get used to, where you're going to move. It's more trial and error again. Those blue things look like they're background, but they're actually foreground. So if you touch them, they'll knock, they'll block your way. Sometimes it's deceptive with what's in the background. The graphics are not always that clear. But once once you're used to it, you know what to expect. Here's where you have to start, switching characters to climb up walls and stuff. This level has a lot of that. You can wait on those center parts of the conveyor belt, even though it looks like it would push you off because it's moving. It doesn't. You can just stand there and wait and plan your movements. So that's useful. Here I didn't really understand. It wasn't clear to me immediately like where I had to go. I guess I could have tried to jump up, but the spikes are really dangerous. I didn't feel comfortable with trying to inch up there. So I ended up finding an alternate little route. I mean, it's probably not the way you're supposed to do it, but it worked. So that's just what I ended up doing. And then here I was looking around. Because remember, I beat this probably at this point when I got here, it was on my first try probably, so I didn't know what was coming up. So here I'm trying to see if I can float under that thing and get to that conveyor belt. Like I was trying to do something kind of tricky, but then I was like, then I looked at it and I realized I don't even need to, be trying to do all that crazy shit. I can just go around that way. So, Sometimes my first time I don't catch everything right away. Like I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I'm just taking my time trying to plan my next movement, plot everything out. This is just trial and error bullshit. This is another part I don't like. It's kind of a shitty part. But it's the kind of part that won't be much harder on hard mode than it is on normal, because you can get rid of the frogs most of the time if you want to. And I couldn't even tell you how to do this consistently. You just have to know where to position yourself as it's moving, and that'll come from trial and error, you know, just experiment. Eventually I just got lucky and I got through these parts, so I have no good tips aside from just fuck around. That's about it. I mean, eventually you'll know that standing in certain parts is going to kill you, or, you know, so you just avoid those, I guess. You have to get into the main opening. Sometimes it looks like you can go through, but if there's like a wall blocking it, you can't, obviously. So you have to just wait for the main opening to be available. I think it's usually in that bottom right area on the screen, but... you know, eventually, you fuck around enough, you'll probably get in there. This is another snake segment. It's the same kind of shit. It's probably harder than the previous one overall, maybe. Yeah, it's a little bit harder because these stupid bouncing guys, they stagger your jumps. It's not the damage they do, it's they stagger your jumps. But when you have a moment to use it, just use your charge jump and jump out of the end of that area there. You know, you basically just have to contend with those guys. I mean, it's a little bit, you know, there's some memorization. It didn't take me long to beat these parts at all, though. I think a few tries. I got lucky here because the guy was, like, damaging me, and I think I had temporary invincibility, so the snake wasn't able to bite me. And I was able to jump up in there, so that was cool. I just wait for this snake to go all the way around before going up on it. This is a very easy one. And then you're at a very easy boss where there's another safe spot. I mean, look, I didn't even know what the fuck I was doing. I was fucking up for a while. I mean, I had an idea what I was going to do, but because I watched the video, but I took a lot of damage in the meantime. And then all you have to do is just stand here and, you know, again, use this overpowered orb technique. It's hard to control, but, you know, eventually you'll hit the moving bulbs and then eventually the centerpiece to kill the boss. But just be patient with that. And, you know, you shouldn't take... You're pretty much completely safe until... I think after you destroy the second little gun, I think then he shoots out these spread shot things, and then you can take some damage, I guess. But, yeah, I wouldn't worry about it on normal. I may have to, you know, change this a little bit for hard if I play on hard, but... yeah, nothing to really be concerned with. This is a great game that I highly recommend overall, though. Like I said, no game is perfect, but I think it's, you know, one of the top NES games, probably. You know, the gameplay's awesome. You know, it's a great game. This is where you can start taking hits, you know. You may get hit occasionally. But, I wouldn't give a fuck about it, really. It did come kind of close, though. You know, it was a little sloppy, but, you know. I think I barely beat it, but it was like my first attempt, I think, really using this method, so... I mean, I could have done better on my next attempt, but it didn't really matter. Yeah, I think I was one hit away from beating the boss, but, you know... You didn't have to take all that damage that I took initially while shooting at the gun. I didn't really know what I was doing when I was starting off as the other character, so... That was not needed. So I'm sure you can play a little bit better than I played there. I mean, most people would be able to manage that. I think this is good. At least I can give a good general idea of what to do to beat all the areas, you know, even if I don't execute it perfectly in this run. So yeah, this is the final segment of the game, and there is some difficult parts. The last boss is the main thing, though. You know, you do have a few checkpoints here, so this particular character has a laser shot, which I think does the most damage in the game. Bucky has a two-way shot that shoots out the back as well. So for some parts he's better, but mostly this guy is going to be better to use because he has like the more powerful shot. It kills the frogs fast. If a frog does grab onto you, use these spikes to kill it. You have to drag it down into the spikes to get it off of you. Otherwise, you'll just die. You won't be able to move properly. So try to avoid letting them latch on. And that's going to be the main thing to concern yourself. Grab the life if you can, obviously. Don't worry about the 1-up. You don't need that shit. Some of the lives try to tempt you into dangerous positions, and they're really not worth going for unless you really need them. And yeah, this is the checkpoint, because the screen changes to a dark tone. That's pretty much black with some gates. That signifies your first checkpoint. So if you die, you'll be spawning here. For these, just use the laser guy. You just shoot immediately and bust through immediately. If you stand around, you'll get crushed by those crushers, but that's easy, very easy. And then here's your next checkpoint. See, you already got another checkpoint. And then I use Bucky for this because since he shoots backwards, he can take out, some of those ships that come up from behind you. And they only take one shot anyway, so you might as well use the less powerful character with the double shot. And I don't even play it that well, but it's, like I said, it's good enough. This is a very easy boss. I'd recommend using a laser weapon again, since it's the most powerful. I think it does double damage as compared to like Bucky and the other characters. I think also the female has a double damage shot, but I never really used her for these segments. I don't think you really need her. I saw people using this character in the speedrun. It seems like it's probably the more effective character. Sometimes, some of these parts I think you can even get double hits in. I saw them doing in the run, but I don't know how to predict it or get it to work every time or anything. All I really do here is make very slight movements, as you can see. I move down a bit, not too far, and then back up again, back down again. That's all you got to do for these two arms. And then the middle part's going to go really wild. And that's the trickiest part. I think I died a few times on that, once or twice on this, the crazy head. I got kind of in a zone with it this time, and I was dodging pretty good. I may have only gotten hit like once, which is how I'm going to pretty much have to play on hard if I get this far. I'm not going to be able to take that hit, obviously, but I mean, the rest of my playing was good enough to beat it on hard. I don't think the enemies get faster or anything on hard. I think it's the same exact thing, just one-hit deaths. That's my understanding. Metal Storm is the other way around. You die in one hit on normal anyway in Metal Storm, but it's still not that hard of a game. But on Expert, you die in one hit, but the game just gets disgusting where you can't even recognize the patterns. It gets insane. Eventually, I was able to find paths through much trial and error. Yeah, so that's all you got to do for that boss. You do kind of have to get in the zone and get used to dodging it, but that's just a practice thing and reflex. I don't have to practice it too much because, I'm pretty familiar with these types of games by this point. For this part, I don't understand exactly what the hit points of the ship are, but first you're going to have to, I would say, use Bucky, get in this corner, let all the enemies just jump into your bullets. I mean, there's no challenge there. And then I shoot at that bulb on the front, that window, and then I use this guy to hit some of the turrets. Now, I don't know if you damage the ship when you're doing this. I don't understand exactly how the damage works and what kills the ship, but I know that I usually end up, that I ended up killing it by shooting the rear engine with the thruster. That's what I focus on. So I'd say, I didn't play this very well, but it was good enough. But I mean, just shoot the parts in the way that I did it and try not to take too much damage and you'll beat it. All you really have to do is watch my video to see what I did here. There's really not much to explain. Try to dodge what you can. If you're taking hits on certain parts, then, and you have to replay it, then you'll have to minimize that next time and just do better. But I did not have any refined strategies on this because I beat this after a few attempts, so I didn't have enough time to really master it or anything. If I do play hard, though, this will require me a lot of work to not get hit. I'll have to find some safe strategies, or just do a lot better. But I'm sure there's better strategies to play this. I really didn't refine it. After this is the final boss, which is a huge fucking pain in the ass. It's very hard because of how awkward shaped and large your character is. So you have a huge hitbox. So the old technique that I use with shooters of focusing on the things coming at you and dodging, you can do that to a degree, but I still found myself taking hits in my peripheral vision because the character's just so awkwardly shaped. So yeah, all I can really say is a lot of practice and and I'll explain a little bit about my movement, but it's going to be a lot of fucking practice. There's also a faster method, which I'll mention after I explain the basic pattern. Yeah, here you can start off by getting a bunch of free shots, grab the life, and move with him as he's moving to the right of the screen. But yeah, after that, he's going to keep doing the same thing, but it seems random. So my best advice, the way when I got good at it, was I try to get to the other side of the screen after they explode. So I'll maneuver through the bullets, get to the other side of the screen, and then I wait until he throws his ball and it explodes before I move again. So you do not want to move other than that, because you can move into the ball while he's throwing it and get hit by it. So I recommend always waiting until he throws the ball and it explodes before moving again. Just wait on the far edge of the screen and go through those, and don't focus on hitting him. You should be focusing on just dodging this shit. That's what I did, and I got in the zone with that, and I ended up doing well. I did also die twice after killing the guy, which sucked. I killed him and then I died from the bullet. So you can die after killing him, so you won't get credit for that. So, obviously be careful at the end as well. Yeah, see, I almost got hit there, but I had enough life to absorb the hit if I had to. I did much better that time, but you just have to practice that for a while. I mean, that took me a while. I don't remember how long. It may have taken me like 30 minutes or an hour. I don't even know. But that was the hardest part in the game. You can also kill him much faster by switching to the laser guy for when the boss is in front of you, because it does double damage. Then, when he's behind you, switch back to Bucky. Then when he gets in front of you again, switch back to the laser guy. You have to do it very quickly, and the switching is not easy to do because you can only switch your characters in a forward movement. You can only cycle through the characters forward, not back. So you have to really have the switching down fast. So I don't recommend that method. I tried experimenting with it, and I had a hard time with that. It was distracting me too much, and I would hit into everything. So it's hard because you have a very small space, because you cannot touch the fire on that boss, or you die in one hit. And the bottom and top are blocked off, by those barriers. So it really restricts movement. Now, you can touch the top and bottom of the screen. It's not like some shooters where you touch a wall and you die. It's not like that. But it's a very small amount of space to move, and the character is very awkwardly shaped. But it's really just muscle memory. You just have to practice it, and you'll get it down to muscle memory where you can just get in that zone. You just have to be relaxed with it. You don't want to get too intense, and that just comes from practicing it a lot. And then it won't be too bad, but it's definitely a tough part. But yeah, stay tuned. Let me know if there's any other games you want to see, and if I do decide to do a hard run, I'll post it up probably once it's fully completed. And I'll add commentary and try to break it down. Thanks for watching.